Welcome back everyone! I cannot believe how much you guys have loved this series. I thought you might be over it after part 2, but no, I've got so many requests to keep this thing going. We've done some videos talking about individual American states, but it's time to take a step back and look at the whole country again, don't you think? Well, I do. I'm Danny Burke, and this is the Top 10 Scary American Urban Legends, Part 4. Starting off at number 10 now, we have the White Cemetery. This one comes from the village of Barrington, Illinois. There lies the White Cemetery. Locals say that if you have to drive past it, don't stop. Always keep going. They say that spirits of the dead have been wandering around outside the gates there since the 1820s. Police and other reliable eyewitnesses have reported seeing apparitions that vanish before their very eyes. Phantom cars come and then go. One time, a house burned down under mysterious circumstances, and in the years since then, it keeps appearing and disappearing. Be warned though, they say you should never enter that house if you see it. When it disappears into the mist, you'll disappear with it forever. If that wasn't enough for you, there's also been reports of a woman with a lantern looking for a ride from passers-by. I'm sure you guys know by now what not to do if you see her. Next up at number 9 now, we have the Boggy Creek Monster. If you ever find yourself in a town of Fouke in Arkansas, ask them about the Boggy Creek Monster. For generations there, locals have shared stories of a creature that roams the area. They say it stands between 7 and 8 feet tall and weighs almost 300 pounds. Its chest, legs and arms are covered with thick hair. Sometimes these Sasquatch-like stories are relatively recent, but the legend of the Boggy Creek Monster goes way back. The first sightings of it came in 1834. Locals reported that a wild man was roaming the area. When groups set out to find him, he retreated back into the hills. By the 1900s, sightings around the town were becoming more frequent. By the end of the century, residents of the town reported seeing the animal more often. In 1997 alone, there were 40 sightings. In all that time, people have claimed the animal was nocturnal, but in 2000, a sighting occurred in broad daylight in the Sulphur River wildlife area near the town. In the years since then, the sightings have only continued, drawing visitors in who want a glimpse of the Boggy Creek Monster. Next up at number 8 now, we have the Wicked Witch of Monroe. This is the story of Hannah Cranner, born in 1783. She lived near Cutler's Farm Road in the town of Monroe, Connecticut. She was said to dabble in black magic. Now, according to accounts, nobody accused her of being a witch until her husband died. He was Captain Joseph Hovey. The tale goes that one night he went out for a walk but somehow fell off a cliff. The locals didn't believe this was possible though, and rumors spread that Hannah had somehow bewitched him, that he had lost his mind and then fallen off the cliff in a daze. They said she was a witch. Hannah used this reputation to her advantage. She would often demand free food and firewood, or else she would curse the townspeople. One woman denied her a fresh-baked pie, so Hannah cursed her so that she could never bake again. She also caught a man fishing on her property, cursed him, and he could never fish again. Over the years, she gained complete control over the locals, and that was ultimately her downfall. She had a rooster named Old Boreas, which some said was her familiar, a sort of spiritual companion that witches are supposed to have. Shortly after the rooster died, she told a neighbor that her end was also near. She said her coffin must be carried by hand to the graveyard and she must not be buried before sunset. She died the next day. It was snowing heavily. The locals decided to ignore her instructions and thought it would be easier to pull her casket across the snow on a sled. As the procession started, the coffin fell off the sled and slid all the way back down to her front door. They tried and failed again. In the end, they decided to just carry her to the graveyard like she asked for. They buried her just after sundown. When they returned to her house though, they found it engulfed in flames in the middle of the snow. Ever since then, the sight of her house and her grave has been attracting paranormal investigators, many of whom say her vengeful spirit still lives on. Moving on to number 7 now, we have Homey the Clown. In the 1990s, every school kid in Chicago had heard the story of Homey the Clown. Many of them had actually seen him. In the autumn of 1991, there were reports of a man in a white van who stalked school kids on their way home and lured them in. If that wasn't scary enough, he was also dressed as a clown. Locals named him Homey after a character from the comedy show Living Color, but this was no laughing matter. Strange rumors began to spread about Homey. Perhaps the strangest aspect of the creepy stalker was that he seemed to be everywhere in the city. School kids all over Chicago reported seeing him. It didn't matter who you were or what school you went to, everybody everybody avoided white vans. Nobody wanted to get caught by Homey. At one point, even the police began to investigate it, but they soon passed over the case. Sightings of Homey began to decrease by the mid-90s, and now some people are left wondering what really did happen. Was it just a made-up story that got out of hand, or did Homey get what he wanted and leave town? For now, at least. Next up at number 6 now, we have Lake Lanier. It didn't take me very long to find countless stories online about what some people say is Georgia's most cursed lake. They say evil has seeped into the very water there. It wraps itself around any visitors who ignore the locals' warnings. The lake is man-made, created in the 1950s to provide hydroelectricity and water supply to Atlanta. The project was plagued with problems from the beginning. Funding cuts halted work a number of times. Neighboring states bickered over water flow requirements and how the water should be used. In order to fill the lake up, the government had to move 250 families, 15 businesses, and even relocate 20 cemeteries along with the corpses. Entire towns were then submerged. They say the lake was cursed for the trouble it had caused, especially to the dead. In the years since, there have been a highly unusual number of deaths linked to the lake. They've ranged from boating accidents, drownings, to cars crashing off the road and into the water. Boats have sunk or hit invisible objects. Strong swimmers have drowned in calm conditions. Locals have reported feeling as if they were being pulled underwater by unseen hands, or feeling the air leave their lungs out of nowhere. In 2011 alone, 17 deaths occurred there, cementing it in people's minds as a very cursed lake. Moving on to number 5 now, we have Riverdale Road. This one comes from the town of Thornton in Colorado. It lies about 20 minutes north of Denver. It's not the most famous place in the world, but it's gaining a paranormal reputation for a very creepy road, Riverdale Road. It leads to a popular hilltop overlook. One night, many years ago, a jogger was running up the road. Out of nowhere, a speeding car came over the hill and crashed into the jogger. The car sped up into the darkness, leaving the jogger to die by himself on the side of the road. They say he vowed vengeance with his dying breath, and locals say his spirit returned in anger. Now he haunts the road and looks into every single car that passes by for the killer that took his life all those years ago. They say that if you park up on the road and turn off your engine and lights, he'll think you're the one who hit him. People have reported hearing sounds of footsteps running towards them, followed by angry beating on the side of their cars and handprints appearing on the windows. If this sounds like an experience you'd like, well, at least now you know where to find it. Coming in number 4 now, we have the Hoosac Tunnel. This tunnel runs through the Hoosac mountain range in western Massachusetts. It may not look like much, but it has a very bloody history. Construction began in 1851. It took 24 years to build, and during that time, around 200 workers were killed. This earned the tunnel the nickname of the Bloody Pit. Perhaps one of the most shocking incidents came in 1867. On October 17th of that year, fumes in the 1,000-foot tunnel ignited, causing an explosion that destroyed a hoist used to lower men, equipment, and supplies. The flaming parts landed on 13 men. The area was also flooded. Rescue attempts were made to get down to them, but they failed and the men were just presumed dead. That wasn't the case though. You see, months later, workers found out that some of the men had survived, and they even made a raft to try and escape the water. In the years since then, locals swear that the 13 workers haunt the tunnel now, tied to this earth by the anger of not being saved. Moving on to number 3 now, we have the Devil's Chair. This one comes from the Alma Cemetery in Kansas. At first glance, it looks like any other cemetery. Gravestones, grass, nothing too creepy, but this cemetery is home to something else, something the locals call the Devil's Chair. According to legend, a farmer once owned all of the land in that area. He refused to sell his land so that it could be used as a cemetery. No matter how much people tried, he refused to give it up. Then, one day, he was mysteriously pushed in a well on the land and fell to his death. Authorities only found his body from the stench that came from the well a few days later. After the incident, locals began to call the well the Devil's Chair. They said it was cursed with the vengeful spirit of the dead farmer. The land was bought and the cemetery was built around the well. That's when the curse seemed to spread to the whole cemetery. As for the Devil's Chair, it was boarded up to stop anyone from meeting the same demise as the farmer. Legend says that those who have sat on the boards have been known to mysteriously disappear, victims of the farmer's vengeful spirit. Next up on number 2 now we have Buck's tomb. This one comes from Maine, where you can find the tomb of Colonel Buck. He was the founder of the town there called Bucksport, an honoured figure in many people's eyes. But this story may have a dark twist to it. On his tombstone there appears to be the strange image of a woman's leg. Locals say that Colonel Buck once sentenced a woman to death for being a witch. As she burned, her leg rolled out of the fire, along with her final curse against him. Her son told the colonel, "Your tomb shall bear the mark of a witch's foot for all eternity." Legend says that his heirs have tried to clean the foot off the stone many times, but still it remains. They even tried to replace the monument twice, but it still keeps coming back. These days, visitors flock to see the monument in person, but a wrought iron fence keeps them from getting any closer to this creepy tombstone. And finally, number 1 now, we have Chessie. You guys have heard of Nessie, right? The Loch Ness Monster? Good. Well, I'd like you to meet Chessie. In Maryland, it's not uncommon to hear people talk about the Chesapeake Bay Monster, Chessie for short. The first sightings began in the 1930s. The crew of a military helicopter flew over the Bush River, and they claimed they saw an unknown reptilian beast in the waters below. Now, at first, people weren't sure if they'd just made a mistake or even made it up altogether. Over the years, though, more and more sightings of Chessie occurred. They say it looks like an anaconda or a python, serpentine, snake-like, and dark in color. One thing everyone can agree upon is that it's huge, up to 30 feet in length and as thick as a telephone pole. Interest in the beast peaked in 1982 when one family apparently videotaped Chessie from their home on Kent Island. The Smithsonian held a mini symposium on the tape and concluded that, among other things, this was absolute evidence that something large was living in Chesapeake Bay. They didn't go on to say that it was definitely Chessie, but that's only strengthened this legend. Alright, there we go. That was quite a long one, wasn't it? I'm a little bit out of breath. I hope you guys enjoyed it though. Well done on finishing it. Would you like some more? I know some of you prefer us to do individual American states, so shall I go back to doing that? It's up to you, of course. Thanks for watching, as always, guys. My name is Danny Burke, and I will see you all in the next video.